Hello trading addicts, this is Pope, and this is the abbreviated format to illustrate how I get value areas defined. I'm going to focus strictly on the value area methodology. What you see on the screen here's a detached panel showing a list of the symbols that I generally get or map value areas for. On the other side here, I have a 6-way grid defined that I have a linked to color set so that as I toggle through different symbols, they all pre-populate for that symbol according to the different settings, studies, and drawings that I have for that symbol. Alright, let's get right to the chase for setting up a style that allows you to visualize the value area of trade for the current day so that you can draw a drawing to highlight it for the next day of trade. Pick the ES. I'm just going to double click this lower left corner stock chart so that it expands it full screen. Let me clean it up a little bit first by deleting all the drawings. Let me edit the studies so that there are no studies present. Let me set the style for candle trend, which it is already. Let's set the time frame for 5-day 30-minute aggregation. And let's turn the show extended session option off. And so this is where we start. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create the style and the studies and then save that style so that it can be retrieved for future use when you want to do this type of thing. So first thing is let's add the study. Add the study. I'm going to select, let me do it this way instead. Profiles, volume profile. Now I'll apply that. I want to show you what it did by default, or at least this is what my study is doing by default. It's charting the value area for the data that is being displayed on the chart. That's what this option right here, time frame per profile, is set to chart. I'm going to change that to day instead of chart. I'm going to change the on expansion to yes so that it displays on the expansion area of the chart so it's easy to visualize and annotate against. I'm going to edit the colors real quick. I want them to be brighter so that they stand out. I'm just picking yellow. And my point of control is going to be purple. I hit apply, OK, and now you can see the value area being described based on the prior day's activity. At that point, that's all there is to it. Okay. Now the thing that's different here, or the thing that's important to note, is to keeping your consistency in your time frame and aggregation period. If you, let's do this. There is the 30-minute candle aggregation on the 5-day. And what I do is I draw a rectangle in here to highlight it. Okay, so that's marked on the chart. That way, if I take the study off, the drawing is still present and I can see where that value area was. I'm setting the duration of the lower right node of the drawing to be a 1 year into the future so that it spans the whole time frame. Let's mark the point of control. I'm drawing a line and aligning it with that purple line that's in there. And I'm going to edit that to be purple as well. And I'm going to thicken it up and make it 2. And so there now the value area and the point of control are annotated as a drawing onto the chart. I generally pick a slightly darker color, charcoal gray, and that's what it would look like. Okay. Now, like I said, you need to stay consistent. And the profile study that ThinkorSwim does calculates it differently depending on what your duration and your candle period is set at. Example, if I change this to a 5-day, 1 minute, you'll notice that according to this profile that the value area low is below where I drew, the value area high is below where I drew. I'm pretty certain that Eric always produced the value areas based on a 30-minute aggregation period. Okay, and so that seems to be fairly accurate so far in all of the last few, I'd say a couple of few months now that I've been tracking them this way, that I see the trade tend to respect this period in aggregation more so than the others. Also notice that if I change this to a 20-day, 30-minute, that it still generally tends to aggregate differently. So I've got a value area low that seems to align, but my value area high doesn't. So I've established a method of being consistent around the 5-day, 30-minute period, and that's what I'll draw in and annotate in my charts, and then I save that drawing out. Okay. However, I'm watching the trade on the 1 minute. Note, there's the value area. Okay, but on my chart that I'm actually tracking these day to day looks something more like this. And I'll load that drawing back in here. I'll expand it. And so if we take Friday's trade, here was the value area based on the 30-minute candles. There's the point of control based on the 30-minute candles. And that way I can adjust my studies because I'm tracking. I want to watch the futures according to different set of studies. I want to use the VWAP, the pivot points, the day range, the overnight range, first hour extensions, previous day's high-low close. Those are the studies I'm watching, and I don't want that volume profile on the same chart at the same time. It just becomes way too busy at that point, if it's not already too busy. And so now I can watch trade and how it respects these points, the highs, the low, point of control, VWAP, close, lows, things like that. And that's it. It's that simple. Now what I do is I have them saved as study or styles. So let me collapse this out of here. Let's go back and change this to the 20-day, 30-minute. Actually, let's take it to the 5-day, 30-minute. And you'll notice that I have a style that's been saved called value area, and if I select that, it basically sets me automatically to 5-day, 30-minute extended sessions off, and this study set as defined. I have other studies that I go through after the trade is done for the day. I go through and I set the style to gaps, and I run through and identify where there might be gaps in the trade. For example, this one was from a few days ago, and this is just catch up at this point, but I'd mark that gap from the 30-minute candles wick to the open. Now, if the gap is from the gap of trade between these two candles, these two 30-minute candles, it's not close. I use the gap itself based on that 30-minute period. Again, I would tend to do this to extend it so that it forward projects out for a year. Okay, and then there's another style that I use. So after I go through and I identify where the gaps are at, if they've been filled, if there are new ones that are unfilled, I mark those. Then I go and I change my style to the value area, and I adjust my value area in. Let's do that. So I go to the value area, I'm not sure why I have to keep doing that. I mark and adjust where the value area is at, point of control. Then I go back out and I pick the next style of 20-day, 30-minute line mode. And I might spend some time studying this to see if I can spot any particular patterns or support and resistance lines. I'll add those in. So maybe something like that. And maybe let's go this way. One could argue it's that. One could argue it's this. When I'm doing line mode on the futures, I'm looking at the extended session period data as well. And at that point, I would save the drawing. And I just call it value area for today. And that way I can go and I can load it back up onto this, load that in, and there's those lines at that point. If they're right or wrong, it's sort of irrelevant at this point. It's that simple. But the idea is by having the styles saved so that they can quickly be retrieved without having to go through and edit the period, the overnight range, and which study to use. I can quickly go through, pick a style. Let's pick the value area style. Then I go through and based on this, I'll whip through and edit each value area for each symbol. I've already done them, so they're already set where they need to be. I go through and I make these edits. Here's when it's not done. Okay, go to the next one. That one's done. That one's done. So I go all the way through my lists down to the natural gas here, and I finish that up. Then I go and I change my style. Maybe I'll do gaps this time. And I'll go through and I'll look for any gaps that need to be marked. And I go back through the list. And I've already done the gap noting. I already did that one. Eventually get to the top and I go back and I set my style to my 20-day, 30-minute period, line mode. And again, I walk through the list. Now this time, this is the last time I'll pass through probably, so as I go through the third stage, after doing the gaps, after doing the value areas, and after looking at trend and support, trend lines, support lines, patterns, whatever, now I'll start doing a saved drawing, and I save it to the value area that I use consistently. Look at the next one. Maybe I'll make some additional notes. I'm wondering if that's a break in the TF of this rising wedge. If it's a rising wedge, save the drawing. Move on to the next one, and just keep doing it. And sometimes I'll look at that and I'll go, you know, these lines aren't needed anymore. Here's a bad line. That support line or that resistance line, that diagonal I was looking at, didn't turn out. Or here's a channel. There's a break in the channel. Do I want to track that channeling longer? Maybe I'll delete that drawing off and then resave the drawing again. That kind of thing. All right, that's it, guys. Have a good one.